Radio 210, 210.
It's 210's Golden Days till 1 o'clock with me, Paul Walter. Oldies from the 50s, 60s and 70s with quite a few competitions. And the question once again, which Vice President of the United States of America wrote a famous song from the 50s and 60s? To give you a bit of a clue, Cliff Richard did it, and it was also done by a gentleman called Tommy Edwards. Reading 25622 if you know the answer. Status Quo, one of their earlier ones from 1968 in fact, and that's Pictures of Matchstick Men. And the question once again, which famous song from the 50s and 60s was written by a Vice President of the United States of America? And when I said Tommy Edwards, I think that gave the game away, says he, sort of linking in with the record there. And the switchboard lit up, and first on the line was Beryl from Reading. Hello, Beryl.
Hi.
And whereabouts in Reading are you calling from?
From Lawn Street.
Right, and you'd like to say hello to any friends who might be listening tonight?
Yes, just hello and Happy New Year to anybody who might be listening.
And what did you make the answer?
Oh, it's all in the game.
Well done, Barry. Thanks very much for ringing then.
Thank you.
Good night to you.
Bye.
And yes, that's right. The tune was written by General Charles Gates Dawes in 1912. He was the Vice President of the USA in the Coolidge administration, 1925 to 29. He was quite a sort of buff on the flute, actually. He wrote the tune to that song. The words were added later. And the song, the answer, it's all in the game. That's Dance with the Devil from Cozy Powell, who went on to be the drummer with the rock group Rainbow, but in the early 70s, mid-70s, he had a very good career as a drummer and had hits like that one and Man in Black, produced by Mickey Most. And in fact, he was a sort of Sandy Nelson of the 70s. And before that, the original Sandy Nelson on the drums and Let There Be Drums. Laurie London had a song adapted from the gospel song by Jeff Love, as He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. And our next competition now, Reading 25622, I'd like to know who was Ross Bagdasarian, please. He was very famous under another name. Who was Ross Bagdasarian? That was originally taken from the film Calamity Jane when it was sung by Doris Day. Slim Whitman also had a version of it, but that was Kathy Kirby. Number 4 from the winter of 63 and Secret Love.
Knight's amazing record sale is now on, and with prices from as little as £1.25 for top name albums, you can't go wrong. Yes, at Knight's, we've reduced prices on a selected range of albums so that the most you'll pay is £2.49, and prices start at an incredible £1.25. Artists include AC/DC, Yes, Diana Ross, Barry Manilow, The Eagles, and 10cc. So hurry to Knight's amazing record sale, now on in Broad Street and Friar Street, Reading, and Woodley and Caversham.
Because people differ, so do Volkswagen Golfs. And at Royal Berkshire Motor Company and Marshall's Garage, you can test drive that difference. There's the Golf C, Formal E, Diesel, Automatic, GTI and convertible to choose from. So whether you're economy or ecology-minded, a speed lover or a sun worshipper, or simply want a reasonably priced car you can rely on, come to Marshall's Garage, Oxford Road, Tarhurst, or the Royal Berkshire Motor Company, Early Road, Reading, and team up with the Golf that matches you.
Shirley and Company and Shame, Shame, Shame. Before that, the first record I made a mistake with. I was doing my first disco and I played the instrumental version of Barry White and You're the First, the Last, My Everything, which is a bit embarrassing seeing as though it was number 1 at the time. Anyway, that competition, Reading 25622, I'm still running it. I've had one answer, a chap saying it was Russ Conway, but that's not right. It's a bit of a difficult one, this one. I'd like to know who was Ross Bagdasarian. That was his real name. He was very well known under another name, and to give you a few clues, he sadly died on this day in 1972. He was of Armenian extraction. He co-wrote Rosemary Clooney's song Come On at My House, and he was also famous for an engineering innovation in his records. Small Faces, Sha-La-La-La-Lee. It's 20 to 10 on 210, Golden Days till 1 o'clock. George Harrison, What Is Life? Before that, the Beatles and Drive My Car. Well, I've had a whole variety of answers on that Who Was Ross Bagdasarian competition. Russ Conway, Mundo Ross, Gene Vincent, but they've all been wrong. A few clues for you. In fact, what I'm doing is I'm going to introduce a prize into it because people are having difficulty with it. I'm going to introduce a bit of interest into it by putting forward my star prize for tonight, which is the sheet music for Cindy's Birthday, which was a song sung by Shane Fenton, who later went on to become Alvin Stardust. He had quite a big career career as Shane Fenton with the Fentones in the early 60s. In fact, this one goes as far back as 1962. There's a picture of him on the front, which is quite a collector's piece. That's a picture of him as he was when he was Shane Fenton, with slick back hair. I think his hair looked a bit grey. He probably put some silver dye or something in it in those days. So that's quite an interesting prize to win. Reading 25622. All you've got to do is tell me who was Ross Bagdasarian, who was better known under another name. He sadly died on this day in 1972. He was of Armenian extraction. He co-wrote Rosemary Clooney's song Come On at My House, and the most important clue, I think, he was famous for an engineering innovation in his records. All his records had something different about them. Dave Clark 5 and Glad all over. And the question for the competition, who was Ross Bagdasarian? The prize is the sheet music of Cindy's Birthday by Shane Fenton, who later went on to become Alvin Stardust. And on the line with the correct answer, we have Mike from Maidenhead. Good evening to you, Mike.
Good evening, Paul. How are you?
Very well, thanks. And yourself?
Not so bad, thanks.
Right, and you've got the answer.
Right, the answer is David Seville of Chipmunks fame, and obviously Witch Doctor in, I think that was his first big hit record.
That's right, and I'll in fact be playing one of his favourites, I think, and that's Ragtime Cowboy Joe.
Oh yes, Chipmunks.
After the break. Okay, Mike, thanks very much for calling, and we'll put the prize in the post to you.
Okay, fine, thanks.
Cheerio then.
Yeah, cheers, Paul.
Radio 210, it's now 9 minutes to 10.
I'll have 2 brandies. Oh, and I'll have a cigar as well, waiter, thank you. You just can't beat a cigar after a good meal.
Maybe, but they're not doing your teeth much good. I've noticed they're looking quite yellow and stained, not at all attractive.
Well, nothing I can do about that.
Oh, there is, you know. There's that new smoker's tooth polish, Topol. It costs a little more, but I've heard it really brightens up tobacco-stained teeth.
If you're a smoker, you should try new Topol, a smoker's tooth polish that's specially formulated for everyday use. Topol's unique dental formula contains 3 ingredients that clean and polish your teeth gently but thoroughly, helping to remove ugly yellow tobacco stains. If you're embarrassed by tobacco-stained teeth, change today to new Topol Smoker's Tooth Polish. Use Topol every time you brush and watch your teeth get brighter.
Well, what do you think of my teeth now after I've been using Topol for a few weeks?
Oh, they're much better, darling. Topol's really made a difference.
Change to new Topol, a smoker's tooth polish that helps remove ugly yellow tobacco stains. Start using Topol every day and watch your teeth get whiter and brighter. Topol, available at chemists everywhere.
Radio 210 and the South Hill Park Arts Centre present Underground 1983, a series of concerts in the cellar bar of the South Hill Park Arts Centre. And during January and February, you'll be able to enjoy a wide variety of artists, including John Cooper Clarke, Richard Digance, Juvescence, Jake Thackeray, Pookie Snackenberger, and starting the series off, Neil Innes. Yes, you can enjoy the zany humour of Neil Innes on Thursday, January the 20th. Tickets are cheaper in advance from the South Hill Park box office, or you can get them on the night. Don't miss Neil Innes at 7:30 and 10 p.m. Thursday, January the 20th. It's the first in the Underground 1983 series in the cellar bar of the South Hill Park Arts Centre.
Closer to you, Radio 210, 210.
That's the Chipmunks with David Seville and Ragtime Cowboy Joe. And just to repeat the competition, it was Ross Bagdasarian. That was his real name, and he changed it to David Seville. He was of Armenian extraction, very difficult to say, and he sadly died on this day in 1972. Well done to Mike for getting that right. It's 5 to 10, and I promised at the beginning of the programme 2 Weenie Bopper records, because it's not a kind of thing that gets played much on the radio. So David Cassidy coming on later on in the programme, but first of all, here's Donny Osmond.
It's 10 o'clock. This is Des Fahey. Scotland Yard have admitted that the man shot several times by policemen in West London on Friday night was the victim of a tragic case of mistaken identity. In the first statement issued since the ambush, Scotland Yard say the results of their internal inquiry are on their way to the Director of Public Prosecutions and to the Police Complaints Board. The injured man, 26-year-old Stephen Waldorf, is still in a critical condition at St. Stephen's Hospital in Fulham, from where Alan Taylor reports.
Surgeons are thought to have told Stephen's father it could be as long as 8 days before he knows whether his son will live or die. It's now understood one of the bullets entered the victim when he was in a slumped position, and that's causing additional complications. Having studied pictures of the man police wanted to arrest, Mr. Waldorf Sr. says it's incredible the mix-up ever took place. Meanwhile, the Waldorf family have had an emotional reunion at their son's bedside, where they'll remain indefinitely. The victim's condition remains critical but stable, but police security at the hospital is trying to ensure there is a clampdown on information.
The death toll from the Turkish airliner crash has risen to 14. The Boeing 727 crashed at Ankara Airport tonight with 60 passengers and 8 crew on board. Another 19 people are believed to be injured. Ulster Unionist leader James Molyneux says the murder today of Judge William Doyle as he left midday mass is a grim reminder of the gunslinging justice the IRA would impose on Protestants and Catholics in a united Ireland. And Mr. Molyneux says the killing shows up the inadequacy of the government's security policies.
Stormont governments and Westminster governments have aimed to involve Roman Catholics in the judiciary and in the police, but unless terrorists are rooted out, we are merely putting those public-spirited people such as Judge Doyle at risk.
Police are baffled by the mystery disappearance of 2 Scottish farmhands, even though one of them's now been found. A big search is on for his companion who's suffering from a heart complaint. Martin Frizzell reports.
61-year-old Hugh Smith and David Edwards, who's 47, have left behind them a web of intrigue that's still not been solved, even although one of them has been found. They disappeared on Friday after driving to market in Northumberland from their farm in the southwest of Scotland. Today, their truck was found locked and neatly parked 100 miles further north at Dalkeith near Edinburgh. Mr. Edwards was picked up in the Scots border town of Moffat tonight, but so far he's been unable to explain the past 2 days. A motorist has positively identified the other missing man, Hugh Smith. He'd given him a lift in the Dalkeith area, where a big police search with tracker dogs is underway. Police say that until they find and talk to Mr. Smith, the mystery remains. Martin Frizzell, IRN, Glasgow.
There's been a warning tonight that water and sewage workers could strike indefinitely within a week to 10 days. It's come from Water Workers Union spokesman Ron Keating, who's called on the government to leave the Water Council to negotiate freely before it's too late. Independent Radio News, it's 3 minutes past 10.
210's weather, it'll stay dry tonight and mild with temperatures no lower than 9 degrees centigrade, and the outlook for tomorrow continuing dry and mild but generally cloudy.
Closer to you, Radio 210. Closer to you, Radio 210, 210.
Rick Nelson, Fools Rush In, and it's 210's Golden Days till 1 o'clock with me, Paul Walter. Oldies from the 50s, 60s and 70s with quite a few competitions, including still to give away tonight, the original 78 of Doris Day singing Que Sera, Sera. Whatever it will be, will be. Be giving away that one for a particularly difficult competition later on. And in this hour, be having one B-side competition, in fact a record that got to number 1, and I think is going to be difficult for somebody to guess the B-side, but we'll see. And the first competition for this hour, I'd like to know what Rick Nelson's Fools Rush In has to do with the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. I think you have to be quite well up. You have to be a bit of an encyclopedic buff on pop music to know this one, but we'll see if anybody does. I'd like to know, what does Rick Nelson's Fools Rush In, or indeed Rick Nelson just full stop, period, what he has to do with the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. If you know, Reading 25622. McCoys and Hang On Sloopy. It's 10 past 10 on 210. Actually, it's an interesting song, that one, because it's been done by many people over the years. Recorded versions of the song have sold an estimated 10 million globally. It's a million seller for them, the McCoys, also a million seller in America for the Ramsey Lewis Trio. It was a hit in Canada for Little Caesar and the Consuls. You may remember in 76 some people called the Sandpipers had a hit over here with it, and it was first recorded by the Vibrations in 1964 on the Atlantic label. Right, the competition we're running at the moment, what has Rick Nelson to do with the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet? And on the line from just around the corner with the answer is Adrian from Ford's Farm. Good evening, Adrian.
Hello, Paul.
And what's the answer?
Ozzie and Harriet is mother and father.
That's right, and how did you know that, sir?
Well, I'm a bit of a Rick Nelson fan myself.
Right. And actually, you didn't know, but The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet was a long-running TV series in America on ABC TV. Went for 18 years with Ozzie. In fact, Ozzie Nelson was a band leader, and his wife, Harriet Hilliard, was a singer, and they had that series, and Rick first appeared on it at the age of 8.
Really?
Yes, he did.
I didn't know that.
Right. Thanks for calling, Adrian. You'd like to say hello to anybody?
Yeah, I'd just say hello to all my family and my friends at Little Heath School.
Right. How old are you, sir?
I'm 14.
14, and you've got an interest in Rick Nelson. How very
I love rock and roll music.
You do. That's very nice to hear. Someone so young having a good interest. Have you got many of the original records, or do you buy compilations?
I buy compilations, and I like to collect original rock and roll records as well.
Yes, they are actually easy to come by for quite cheap prices. If you go around these second-hand shops, they usually have a cardboard box full in the corner, rather than going to these auctions and things where they go for about 90 quid, some of the records. But you can get them in second-hand shops. Adrian, nice to talk to you. Good night to you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye. Kaylin Twins and When. And on the line now we have Graham from Early. Hello, Graham.
Hello.
Whereabouts in Early are you calling from?
Wycombe Road.
What have you been doing this weekend? Anything interesting?
Well, we've just come back from church, from Hilltop Free Church.
Yeah.
Had a good evening. And we just listened to the radio as we came in and give you a ring.
Lovely. And did you actually have that record which had...
No, I haven't actually.
You haven't?
No.
So how did you know the answer?
Well, I'd heard it a couple of times, and it's just one of those names that sort of sticks in your mind, because like you say, it's just a one hit.
Yeah.
It seems to stick more than the more common one.
What, you mean you heard the B-side?
I've heard both sides, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. What, was that on the radio, was it? Or friends?
No, I'd heard it round friends' house before.
That's interesting. Yes, as I say, it was a one-hit wonder for them. It was number one in February 1966. It was the Overlanders and Michelle.
That's right.
You'd like to say hello to anybody?
Yes, just like to say hello to my wife, and good luck to the baby that we'll be having.
Thanks very much for calling. Bye-bye. I was going to be very, very sort of professional and polished and bring in the actual record that was on the A-side, but I put it on at the wrong speed, so everything was completely botched up. 27 minutes to 10 on 210 for a Sunday evening. Golden Days, that's oldies in the 50s, 60s and 70s till 1 o'clock with me, Paul Walter. Especially for Vera, because she said she hadn't heard that one for a long time. Michael Holiday and The Story of My Life. Before that, Buddy Holly and Think It Over. First of all, from 1973, it was Wings and the soundtrack theme from Live and Let Die. And during these programs, I'll be taking a look at some of the anniversaries in the past few days and the few days to come. In fact, it's Bobby Goldsborough's birthday on Tuesday, and that was his summer the first time. And from yesterday, in 1970, 15th of January, Diana Ross made her last appearance as a Supreme. And here's one of her solo songs, Remember Me. Diana Ross and Remember Me. Another competition now. This time, it's not a music knowledge question. It's a taped question, and what you've got to do is identify the 3 pieces of music which are on this tape. They're very small snippets, actually, so you've got to be on the ball to recognise them. Actually, what you've got to tell me is the theme, the common theme, which connects these 3 records. They're all about something. So if you can tell me what that something is, it's Reading 25622. Listen very carefully. So we find our guns on the beach, kept the coming on the road. You used to be my heart. There we are, 3 snippets from records. What you've got to do is tell me the common theme which connects them. Reading 25622. It's 11:15.
Because people differ, so do Volkswagen Golfs. And at Royal Berkshire Motor Company and Marshall's Garage, you can test drive that difference. There's the Golf C, Formal E, diesel, automatic, GTI and convertible to choose from. So whether you're economy or ecology-minded, a speed lover or a sun worshipper, or simply want a reasonably priced car you can rely on, come to Marshall's Garage, Oxford Road, Tarhurst, or the Royal Berkshire Motor Company, Early Road, Reading, and team up with the Golf that matches you.
49, 50.
Phew, there's nothing like exercise for toning you up, is there?
You can say that again. But I really wish I could find something to help tone up my complexion, too.
Oh, what's the problem?
Well, it's just that most soaps are made for normal, dry or greasy skin. Mine's part dry and part greasy. I just can't seem to find a soap to suit it.
Oh, you've got combination skin like mine. I always use Cuticura mildly medicated soap.
Cuticura, is it expensive?
Well, it costs a little more than ordinary soaps, but it's specially made for combination skin.
Cuticura mildly medicated soap gives a really rich lather that works down into the pores to wash away unwanted oil, helps clear out all the impurities too. And Cuticura works without leaving your skin feeling tight or moisture-starved because its special moisturizing emollients help smooth and soften the dry areas.
Oh, Hilary, I meant to ask you, did you try the Cuticura soap I told you about?
Yes, and it really suits me. With Cuticura, my skin's keeping fit too.
Cuticura mildly medicated soap, the one-step care for combination skin, at Boots and chemists everywhere.
Do you have to wake up early in the mornings, or are you on your way home from a night shift? Do you know what the traffic's like before you set off on a journey? Do you feel competitive? Haven't yet had a chance to read the morning newspapers? I bet you like music. What's the latest news? Let me answer these questions. Graham Seaman on Daybreak, Monday to Friday mornings between 5 and 7.
Graham Seaman and the 210 sound effects department there. It's 10 to 11, and that competition once again. I'll play the music just to refresh your memory. Actually, it's nice to know because we had a full switchboard on that one. I've been asking rather obscure questions this evening, but thankfully the whole switchboard went mad as soon as I played that and gave you the question. I wanted to know what was the connection between the three records, and on the line first was John from Tilehurst. Hello, John.
Hello there.
Had a nice weekend?
Oh, not too bad, thank you.
Whereabouts in Tilehurst are you?
Pool Close.
Right, whereabouts is that?
That's just off the Mood Road.
Right, and what was the answer?
It was New Orleans.
New Orleans was the connection. Can you tell us by any chance the people who were doing the songs?
Well, I don't know the first one, but the second one was Lonnie Donegan, and the third one was Fats Domino.
That's right. Actually, the first one was Lonnie Donegan, Battle of New Orleans.
Oh, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, then it was Fats Domino, Walking to New Orleans. Right. And the last one was Freddie Cannon, and way down yonder in New Orleans. Yeah. Thanks very much for calling, John.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good night.
Bye.
Radio 210.
That's Mott the Hoople with Ian Hunter on lead vocals and all the way from Memphis. Before that, The Stones and The Last Time. And if you like hits of the 60s, don't forget to listen to Howard Pierce. He plays a whole load between 5:15 and 6 o'clock every Monday on his drive time show between 3 till 7. Listening to 210, it's Golden Days. That's hits from the 60s, 50s and 70s between now and 1 o'clock. Still to come to give away on one of our competitions. I'll be giving away the original 78 of Doris Day singing K Sarah Sarah, which must be worth a few pounds. So that's something to look forward to. I'll do that competition, in fact, between 11 and past. It's 11 o'clock. This is Clive Bull. It's now believed that 22 people have died in tonight's air crash in Turkey. It's not known whether a British man on board is among the dead. The Turkish Airlines Boeing 727 crashed on arriving at Ankara Airport in blizzard conditions. Rescuers worked in fog and driving snow to pull people from the burning plane, carrying 60 passengers and 8 crew on a flight from West Germany. Aside from the 22 dead, another 28 people are reported injured. Scotland Yard have admitted that the man shot several times by policemen in West London on Friday night was the victim of a tragic case of mistaken identity. In the first statement issued since the ambush, Scotland Yard say the results of their internal inquiry are on their way to the Director of Public Prosecutions and to the Police Complaints Board. The injured man, 26-year-old Stephen Waldorf, is still in a critical condition at St Stephen's Hospital in Fulham. From there, Alan Taylor reports.
Surgeons are thought to have told Stephen's father it could be as long as 8 days before he knows whether his son will live or die. It's now understood one of the bullets entered the victim when he was in a slumped position, and that's causing additional complications. Having studied pictures of the man police wanted to arrest, Mr. Waldorf Sr. says it's incredible the mix-up ever took place. Meanwhile, the Waldorf family have had an emotional reunion at their son's bedside, where they'll remain indefinitely. The victim's condition remains critical but stable, but police security at the hospital is trying to ensure there is a clampdown on information.
11 people have been hurt tonight when a car ran straight into a crowd outside a church in Stockport in Greater Manchester. John Parkinson reports from the scene.
The drama happened as about 200 people were leaving the church in the Heaton Mersey area of the town. They were chatting in the car park when suddenly a car driven by a 77-year-old woman careered into the group, which included 16-year-old twin sisters. 6 of them have been taken to Stockport Infirmary and the other 5 to Manchester's Withington Hospital. One of the twins is critical with head injuries. At the scene, Sergeant Derek Gardner.
There was a large number of people milling about outside. In view of the amount of people who were here when I arrived and the amount of people who were injured, it's fortunate, in fact, that it could have been a lot worse than it was.
It's not yet known how the accident happened, but one theory is the driver pensioner could have blacked out. John Parkinson, IRN, Stockport.
Russia is admitting for the first time that the nuclear power pack from its runaway Cosmos satellite will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. But the Soviet experts say that the pack will burn up later this month and there'll be no danger. The Americans have been saying for more than 2 weeks that the satellite was out of control, but the Russians first denied this and later confirmed only that the craft had been destroyed when it ran into problems. Snooker news, and in the Larder Classic final at Warrington, Steve Davis was leading by 7 frames to 5. Independent Radio News, it's 3 minutes past 11. And 210's weather, it'll stay dry tonight and mild with temperatures no lower than 9 degrees centigrade. The outlook for tomorrow continuing dry and mild, but generally cloudy. Jerry Lee Lewis and High School Confidential, and starting off with Great Balls of Fire. 210, it's 8 minutes past 7, 8 minutes past 11 rather. And the competition now, I'd like to know 4 number ones that were reggae songs, please. Reading 25622, 4 songs that were reggae number ones, and here's a bit of a clue. Desmond Dekker and the Israelites. That was the first reggae number one. A bit of a clue for the competition. I wanted to know 3 other ones. And first on the line was Annette from Brisbane Road in Reading. Hello, Annette.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
I'm fine, thank you.
And can you name us 3 other ones then, reggae number ones?
Right, Musical Years and Past the Century.
Right.
Uptown Top Ranking by Alfie and Donna.
Yeah.
And Eddie Grant.
Right. I Don't Want to Dance. And I was looking through my books, and the other ones I came up with was Dave and Ansel Collins with Double Barrel, and also the one I'm going to play in a minute from Ken Booth.
Oh, that's the one I was on the tip of my tongue. I completely forgot it.
Right. And you said you had a cousin who played in Desmond Decker's band. Is that right?
That's right. He played on the keyboards.
For how long?
Record. I don't know really. I've no idea.
Yeah, it was just on that record. Was he a session musician?
Oh, no, he was actually in the band.
Oh, I see. And he played with them for some time. That's interesting, Annette. Thanks very much for calling. You'd like to do some dedications while you're on?
Well, just to anyone who knows me.
Okay.
Especially David,
Who's the love of your life?
no. Oh, no, he's just a very good friend of mine.
Just good friends. Okay, we'll go on now with Ken Booth. This was number 1 in 1974. And did you know it was originally a Bread song? Did you know that, Annette?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Well, yes, it was. It was written by David Gates and done by Ken Booth. Thanks very much for calling, Annette.
That's okay.
Good night. Bye-bye. Beautiful song, Ken Booth and Everything I Own. It's 11:15, and now I'm going to give away that original 78 of Whatever Will Be, Que Sera Sera by Doris Day, and the question is about her film Calamity Jane. She starred in that film alongside a male singer who is now seen on TV quite a lot on a long-running series. I'd like to know the name of that male singer, please. Reading 25622.
To you, Radio 210.